Hello there, welcome to an edition of Mini Math Lessons with Karen, and today we're going to be looking at reflections in the coordinate plane. So the activity that I'm giving you an overview is available for free. The URL is in the description, and you paste it and you get this free activity. You can share this with anyone and they can play in the activity themselves. If you want to save what you've done or maybe modify it in some way, make sure you create an account so that you can do that. You can save it and duplicate it. So this activity is about reflections in the coordinate plane. So really kind of focusing on what happens to the coordinate points and as you reflect over the x-axis, the y-axis, and the line of y equals x. Hopefully as students explore this, they are going to come up with the patterns and be able to come up with kind of the process and the rules themselves. That's the point of this. Hopefully before they've done this, they have explored about reflections already. So there is a previous lesson that is more about what are the basics of reflection. So we're going to assume that knowledge already. So now we're just exploring what happens when it's in a coordinate plane, right? So they have this triangle here that's in the fourth quadrant, and this triangle can be moved, and that's going to come into play later. And you'll notice it has hide show buttons here. And what you want to do is, you'll notice here's the questions. It's asking them to do certain things and then write their observations and summaries. So the first thing they're going to do is explore what happens to that pre-image when we reflect it over the x-axis. And so what we're hoping is that they start noticing at corresponding points. They have 5 and 5, those are the same, but what's changed is the value of the y-coordinate. It has flipped to its inverse, its negative of whatever it was. And what we want them to also do is to not just leave this here. What happens if the original were in a different quadrant? Does that rule still apply? So notice the x values stayed the same and the y coordinates did switch to their inverse, but it wasn't originally a positive, so its inverse would be a negative. So this is kind of where we want them to explore, and this is the beauty of dynamic software, is you can quickly see things and change things and move things. So the goal is to definitely have them move things around in the coordinates. All of this is reflecting over the x-axis, but what happens if the start position of your original is somewhere different? And that's the key here. So they're going to do that. I'm not going to do it for all of this overview, but they're going to do that. Now what happens if we do over the y? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to move things around and we're going to see what the rule is here. So over the y, you would expect it to be the opposite of what happens over the x. So in this case, it's the y's that remain constant and the x values, x coordinate, is what becomes its inverse, right? And then what happens when it's y over equals x, right? What happens when we flip over that? And here, since we're flipping over both, it seems like it makes sense that they would both switch to their inverse, right? So these are the things we want them exploring. They get to move things around and test that out. And then once they've come up, they basically summarize each type of reflection in the coordinate plane. And then they get to come down here and actually test themselves. So here's this shape. And right now, if they reflected over x, what would the new coordinates be? So the goal here is let them figure it out first before they do it, and then check, see how you did, right? So they get to check how they did. Did they get it right? And then the beauty of this is they can do this forever. They can move this shape somewhere else, and now let's try it again. So different answers. So that is the goal of this. It's sort of a practice with an immediate response here for them to see how they did. So that's this activity. Lots of fun. Students can explore and move and change things and kind of get a better sense of what happens when we are reflecting in a coordinate.